I had 3 victims that I've been working with, victims of the Carters, that were ready to come forward. This might help them feel a little more confident now. So this is great. Everything you see about him is an illusion. But what he loves the most is controlling youth.
Fact check me. And Jaguar has more information than I do. So to anybody who discredits her is really doesn't know what's going on, because she has more information than I could even dream of having, because I'm sure, without even speaking to her about this.
But here's what nobody is saying out loud. There are moments in the music industry where the story suddenly shifts, not because of a new album, not because of a chart-topping hit, but because someone decides to speak, not carefully, not safely, but honestly. And when that happens, it doesn't just create headlines, it creates tension, the kind that makes people uncomfortable. That moment came when Jaguar Wright started talking again. Now, if you've been online lately, you've probably seen clips floating around. Short videos, bold claims, names being dropped without hesitation.
So tell me about your audition with Jay-Z. Tell me what he said to you.
A really good audition.
Yes.
But before I met him, I was so nervous. I was shaking literally. But the moment I walked into the office, the atmosphere was so warm and welcoming.
And you had to sing a cappella for him?
Yes, I had to sing. I sang Fun to Replay. I sang another ballad from the album last time.
Yeah. So then what did he say to you? He said something to you.
Oh yes, he said, we don't sing songs here, we sing artists. And there was this little pause, and I was nervous. But then he said, and we're interested. And there was this sudden feel of relief.
But then he said something about a window and a door or something.
Oh, then he said, he said it one more.
I did a lot of homework on you, this lady.
He said, there are 2 ways to leave here, either through the door with the deal signed or through this window, and we're on the 29th floor.
So you was like, where's the pen? Where's the paper? I'm signing.
Yeah.
But this time, it wasn't just general industry criticism. This time, she pointed directly at one of the most powerful couples in music and brought Rihanna into a conversation that nobody expected. And before you scroll away thinking this is just another internet rumor, stay with me, because what's being said isn't just about fame, it's about power, control, and what really happens behind the scenes when careers are being built or broken.
Signed it that night. We didn't let her leave the office.
Really?
The 3 a.m. was when that contract got signed. So from the meeting around 3, 4 in the afternoon, we signed it by 3 a.m.
Wow.
That day. I was absolutely certain.
How often does that happen? I mean, that's
not often.
That's unheard of, right?
That's not, yeah. I mean, to get lawyers to draft up contracts and then the other side to agree to contracts in 10 hours that's retarded. No.
Because once you hear it all together, it starts to feel less like a random noise and more like a pattern. To understand why this is hitting so hard right now, you have to go back, not to the drama, but to the beginning. Rihanna didn't come into the industry with power. She came in with a dream. A young girl from Barbados stepping into a world that was already controlled by people who had been running it for decades.
This is an unusual story.
Well, first, I met a producer in Barbados who was vacationing there because his wife is from there. So he was vacationing there one time, and my friend who knows him, she wanted me to meet with him. So in a nutshell, I went to his hotel room, I sang for him, and he was impressed. So he invited me out to his studio to do some recording, and we recorded for like a year back and forth. Then we finally put a demo together. We sent it to a few labels, and Def Jam happened to be the first label to call back. They were the most enthusiastic about everything. So we set up a meeting with Jay-Z, and I met with him, and he was very impressed by the audition, and he didn't let me leave until 3 in the morning after we signed the deal.
Well, were you nervous meeting Jay?
What? I was literally shaking in the lobby.
It was the longest 12 hours of my life. Like, I was just waiting downstairs, and I was like, get the contract down here. I want to sign, I want to sign, I want to sign. I was so hyped. I didn't sleep for the next 3 days.
She had the voice, the look, the presence, but what she didn't have was influence. Not yet. And that's where Jay-Z enters the story. At the time, he wasn't just an artist, he was building something bigger, a brand, a business empire, a legacy.
She was a kid at that time, correct?
15-year-old girl who had been flown to the United States without parental supervision or a chaperone, brought to a grown man's office in a large corporate Manhattan building. Everybody knew when she flew in. I was there the day she got signed. Everyone was talking about it. And the 6 hours that she spent with him, and the 4 hours that she spent alone with him with no parental supervision. Her father didn't show up to the next day to come and collect the check.
Well, and
this isn't her life.
The rumors were even beyond that, right? That Jay-Z was cheating on Beyonce with her when she was
Very
17
so.
Is what a lot of this came out through a publicist who later then
Have
had
you
to
spoken
apologize.
to my friend Jonathan Hay? You should talk to Jonathan.
And when Rihanna walked into that audition, it wasn't just about music anymore. It was about potential, about what she could become under the right guidance. The story that's been told for years is simple. Jay-Z discovered her. He believed in her. He helped launch her career. And in many ways, that part is true. Rihanna's rise was fast, almost too fast. Within a short time, she went from unknown to global star.
The next thing you know, she was removed from that first team from Palm the Replay and replaced with all new handlers and kept sheltered in Los Angeles, where she was going out to parties and partying at 15, 16, 17 years old, hanging out at the Rainbow Room, hanging out. Yeah, like it was one of my friends who found out she was 17 when everyone thought she was 21. And he was like, yo, why do y'all got me carrying this girl around and she's, oh, it's cool, it's cool.
Well, but just to echo and support you, like they had to debunk that. Oh, we apologize. It wasn't real. We made it up in hopes of giving her single a boost.
Yeah, they
like,
promised
what?
Jonathan a deal working at Tidal and something, and then they reneged. And then the next thing you know, he was caught in a home invasion robbery while he was working on the Drake secret baby mama story,
Jeez.
Sophie. He was duct taped him and his daughter, and he was pow whipped in front of his child. So, you know, there's a lot that goes on in the backdrop.
But here's where things start to feel different. Because in the music industry, nothing moves that quickly without something happening behind the scenes. Jaguar Wright has been saying for a long time that the industry doesn't work the way people think it does. That artists aren't just discovered, they're positioned, placed, managed in ways that go far beyond music. And according to her, Rihanna's early career was not as simple as it looked on the surface.
Dad, I know I promised you I'm gonna give you my first Grammy, but we might have to fight for this one.
She said she want to thank everybody for her first Grammy.
Anyway, I'd like to thank Jay-Z for being a part of this record with me.
She like to thank Jigga Man for being the greatest in the world.
Ellen Reed, Steve Bartles, Tata, Jay Brown, Karen Kwok for finding this amazing record. Tricky, Dream for writing such a beautiful record. Thank you, I love you guys. Mom, Dad, my two brothers, Rory and Rajad. Please wrap up, okay? Barbados, I love you. We got one. Evan Rogers, Carl Sturken, Mark Jordan, Krista, and making sure I don't forget anybody. Thank you so much. This means a lot.
Now, to be clear, these are claims, strong ones, emotional ones, and they've sparked a lot of debate. But what makes people pause isn't just what she's saying, it's how confidently she's saying it. She talks about control, about influence, about how young artists, especially women, are often put in situations where they don't fully understand the game they've stepped into.
He's been evading, but the thing is, everyone in the backdrop knew that he was the celebrity John Doe. Everybody knew that. They knew it when I did Pierce Morgan.
Is Beyonce Celebrity B?
I hope to God not. But she was around. And she's very... she's got enough on her plate. After everything that happened with the election and everything that's happening right now, I'm not going to dump on that woman. She got better fish to fry.
Well,
what I
look,
will say is that her husband, she knows exactly who he is.
And when she brings up Rihanna and Jay-Z in the same breath, people start connecting dots. Because let's be honest, their early relationship has always been surrounded by questions. Back in the day, there were rumors, stories that were never fully confirmed, but never completely denied either. Whispers about how close they were, about whether their connection was purely professional or something more.
He was after Beyonce when she was before 18, correct? I mean, as we go through the timeline, they claim, oh no, I met him at 18 and then we waited till I was 19, but they knew each other when she was like 15, 16, correct? He clearly had eyes, and it's not the only one, right? There's Aaliyah as well. I was looking at these photos. There's a history
but
of this,
Aaliyah
right?
definitely. A lot of people don't realize the timeline, but after everything went bad with Robert Kelly and he had to divorce Aaliyah, Jay-Z was interested while she was still underage. And as she started spending more time in New York, he was very, very, very right there. She didn't want that. She didn't want that with him. And if there's one thing I can tell you about Sean Carter, being embarrassed and being rejected are things he does not handle well. You know, a lot of people say, oh, you're crazy. He didn't do anything to Big L.
At the time, it was easy to dismiss. The industry is full of gossip. And both Rihanna and Jay-Z moved forward, building their careers, growing their brands, becoming icons in their own right. But here's the twist. Jaguar Wright isn't framing it as gossip. She's framing it as part of a bigger system.
That Jay-Z used to have transgender women on there. On the tour bus, he knows that. He knows that Jay-Z used to prefer transgender women. So I don't know why. I wish Dame Dash would come out and, say everything, but maybe in his own way, he's trying to, protect the hip hop culture and knows how many people could be crushed if he came out and really spoke about Jay-Z's secrets. They set out to do that,
Did you personally see Jay-Z with transgender women? You personally?
I have, correct.
Can you speak on maybe in what aspect? Is it music video or outside of music videos?
It was during the tour. It was during the tour with the Mill, DMX, Jay-Z.
The Hard Knock Life.
No.
Or maybe a different one.
Yeah, they had the documentary for it. What was that called? I'll think of it. I'll think of it here in a little bit.
Yeah, it was a documentary, backstage or the
backstage with the Mill and all that. I used to work with her, and I definitely. It was unmistakable. In 2024, the trans women are, it can be hard. Like a lot of people that they don't know, but back then it wasn't as advanced, and you could clearly tell, that was a guy.
According to her, what people see on stage is just the final product, the polished version, the success story. But what happens behind the scenes, that's where the real story lives. She suggests that artists are often shaped by powerful figures who decide how far they go, what image they present, and sometimes what they have to give in return.
And when she talks about Rihanna, she doesn't talk about her as just a superstar. She talks about her as someone who had to navigate a system that wasn't designed for her, but expected everything from her. That's where the conversation gets uncomfortable.
Speaking of PTSD, you made a comment about this. This was from the Super Bowl appearance more recently. This bothered you, seeing her put the Rockefellers logo out there.
If you
what was
go
your
back
instinct to that?
and watch, it was almost as if she didn't want to put her hands up, and then she looked over where Jay-Z's box was, and then you just see her hand. She look at her. She's looking at his box. She didn't want to do it. She didn't even want to do that gig. hold, especially the financial hold with the companies and all of the money and all of the strings that he pulled to. He treats these women like shell corporations.
Is that why this happened? Do you have any insight on this infamous elevator video where Solange was seen just unloading on him? Beyonce's there as well.
What I will say is, right there, that's the moment when he told her to back up and called her Tito Jackson.
And respect and love to Tito Jackson, who we just lost recently.
I know. Tito
Legend,
could never get a break, and he's the nicest guy.
But here, yeah, Jay-Z trying to mimic, she's not worthy, she's nobody, is what he's trying to do.
Pretty much, is what he pretty much said to her. But the thing is there was infidelity that was happening that night. Both of them got caught doing things they weren't supposed to do. I believe there might have been some DV that happened. And people who know Mr. Carter knows he doesn't have a problem with putting his hands on his wife. Plenty of people know that to be true. Solange is different.
Allegedly,
Solange is different. She's old school Southern, and she loves her big sister, even when her big sister makes mistakes. She stood up for her sister. The most interesting thing about that, though, can we look at that one more time, Andy? They come in, and all of this, and then look, it almost looks like he's going to defend himself, but instead he prostrates himself, right? He lets Solange go nuts, and then he sits there and acts. He knows that camera's there. He knows where all the cameras are in that place. There's another footage, and I'll get it and I'll send it to you, of him with another woman approaching him aggressively, or it seemed like aggressively, and he the crap out of her. Matter of fact, there's at least 5 different shows over the course of the past 15 years where he has physically women that came into his space that he didn't want anywhere near him. So I find it funny that in all those other instances, he had no problem with putting his hands on a woman to so-called defend himself. But when he's getting killed alive with cameras there, all of a sudden now he's meek and mild. I think that was a setup. I think he did that specifically to handle up on Solange.
Because now it's not just about music anymore. It's about power dynamics, about what happens when a young artist is introduced to someone who already controls the game. And suddenly, people start asking questions they didn't ask before. Why did Rihanna's career move so fast? Why did certain rumors never fully go away? And why are these conversations resurfacing now, after all these years? But here's where things get even more intense, because Jaguar Wright doesn't stop at just raising questions. She speaks like someone who believes she already knows the answers.
Okay, the person who leaked the security video of Solange attacking Jay-Z was found and then fired. Reportedly, it was a female security guard. And she didn't take the tape from the hotel security system, she recorded it on her cell phone. Well, that was smart though, because I mean, I'd be thinking about just take the tape. So that was smart. The less than smart thing is that it took her 5 days. She shopped it around for 5 days before she got, some dough for it. Finally, it was TMZ who bought the video. Originally, it was reported that whoever sold it for $250,000, but now there's some discrepancy in the amount of money. Some people are saying $50,000, some are saying $100,000, others are saying $250,000. Either way, now she's gonna lose it all because now the Standard's going to sue her. They've hired a high-priced lawyer to go after this security guard girl, and now she can never be, I guess, a security person again since she's a security breacher. It's terrible.
And that's what divides people. Some see her as someone exposing truth. Others see her as someone speaking from pain, from frustration, from a place shaped by her own experiences in the industry. But either way, people are listening. Because even if you don't believe every detail, there's something about what she's saying that feels familiar. We've seen stories before. Artists speaking out years later, talking about contracts they didn't understand, situations they couldn't control, decisions that were made for them, not by them.
I am strong. This happened to me. I didn't cause this. I didn't do it. This happened to me, and it can happen to anybody. There are a lot of women who've experienced what I did, but not in the public. So it made it really difficult. I just felt like, oh my God, here goes my little bit of privacy. Just exposed, like it's something that nobody wants anybody to know. So here I am, the whole world knowing.
Why be ashamed?
Because I didn't want people to think that that's the kind of person I fell in love with that person. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing that that's the type of person that I fell in love with. So far in love, so unconditional that I went back.
On average, I think it takes a woman 7 times before she leaves.
8 or 9, actually. And I don't want that to happen. That's not what I want to teach people. But again, people, I'm a human being, and people put me on a very unrealistic pedestal and all these expectations. I'm not perfect. Also, it's pretty natural for that to be the first reaction. It's completely normal to go back. You start lying to yourself. The minute the physical wounds go away, you want this thing to go away. This is a memory you don't want to have ever again.
Watch this closely. This is Rihanna's 2009 ABC News interview with Diane Sawyer, the performance that destroyed Chris Brown's career and protected Jay-Z's empire. Notice how perfectly she hits every victim talking point. I am strong. This happened to me. I didn't cause this. The language is flawless, practiced, designed for maximum sympathy. But listen to what she's really saying.
I couldn't be held responsible for telling them, go back. Even if Chris never hit me again, who's to say that their boyfriend won't? Who's to say that they won't kill these girls? And these are young girls.
And when you look at Rihanna today, it's almost hard to connect that image to the young girl who first walked into that room. She's powerful now, independent, untouchable in many ways. A businesswoman, a global icon, someone who built an empire far beyond music. But what nobody really talks about is the journey between those two versions of her. The part where she had to survive long enough to become who she is today.
Don't see the lineup?
Yeah, we see the lineup. I'm just waiting to see who's next.
Jay-Z is setting Diddy up. Why is everyone having such a hard time? He ain't doing shit. He lined up D-Haven, stole his life and identity. He lined up Big L, stole his life and identity. He lined up Dame Dash, stole his life, identity, and took his love. Lined up R. Kelly. He wants to be the one.
Yeah, shout out D-Haven. He actually hit us up, wanted to tell this story.
You need to talk to D-Haven.
Yeah, we need to talk to him.
I told you that last year when I put you on the phone with him.
You did.
I want you to think about this. Allegedly, Sean Carter is responsible for enacting Hype Williams to put Aaliyah on a faulty plane to move her out the way as punishment for rejecting him, and so he could level up Beyonce, who was struggling. Let's just say allegedly that happened. Now I want you to think about 106th and Park with Mary J. Blige. Free, who is a victim of Sean Carter.
Yeah.
Mary J. Blige, who is a victim of Sean Combs, are sitting there talking about the death of Aaliyah amongst each other. Think about that. You got a Diddy victim, you got a Jay-Z victim, and you got a superstar gone. They know what happened. And yet, they had to sit there and have that conversation like they didn't know who did it. Think of the power of that moment. Think about Claudia Jordan right now. Claudia Jordan don't ever mention my mother name. She mentioned it yesterday. Talking about why people are afraid to come forward. You mean like you? You was Diddy girl. Corey was Jay-Z girl. Why don't you claim your friend? Claudia.
So, Jag, when you say...
When I say Corey, I'm talking about Kathy White.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
Jay-Z's pregnant mistress, who died of an imaginary aneurysm, just like the woman who was best friends with Kim and Kimura, who wrote the book Bling and died as soon as it made the bestsellers list. Who the f these people supposed to go to? You can't go to the boss because the boss is you. And the boss's boss don't get no. Can't go to the authorities. They're all bought and paid for.
And that's the part Jaguar Wright keeps pointing back to. Not the success, but the process. Not the spotlight, but the shadows behind it. And maybe that's why this conversation feels so heavy, because it forces people to look at the industry differently. Not as a place where dreams come true, but as a system where those dreams are negotiated, where talent is just the beginning, not the guarantee, and where the price of success isn't always visible. For Rihanna, whether these claims are true or not, the impact is real, because every time her name gets pulled into these conversations, it shifts how people see her story, not just as a success, but as a journey that may have come with sacrifices nobody fully understands. And for Jay-Z, it brings back questions that never fully disappeared. Questions about power, about influence, about what it really means to discover someone in an industry where nothing is random. But here's the emotional weight of it all.
People have been hitting me about, how could Jaguar Wright know all these things, right? And how, Jaguar Wright hasn't worked with Jay-Z since, when she did the Unplugged. That's a long time ago. Well, I can tell you just from what I've experienced is the people that have contacted me since I've done like your show and since I've done other shows, people have contacted me, other victims, and have sent me, obviously there's been some people that have sent me stuff that, doesn't check out or whatever, but victims have contacted me and they have sent me proof that can never be disputed, photos, everything else, because they don't want to bring their story out, but they like what we're doing. So they're whistleblowing, but they're doing quietly to protect their jobs and to protect their families and to protect, whatever. They're not comfortable speaking out. So if I've got all kinds of information in the last 2 months, just from doing, shows like you guys, I can't imagine all the stuff that Jaguar Wright has got and to her, and the access that she's seen and the people who have came to her. Like, she has such a bigger reach and such a bigger audience than me. It's and mine is getting to the point where it's overwhelming of people reaching out who have suffered from Diddy, from Jay-Z, and from these celebrities.
Because beyond the headlines, beyond the speculation, beyond the viral clips, there are real people at the center of this. A young artist who had to grow up in front of the world. A mentor figure whose role has always been bigger than just music. And a voice like Jaguar Wright, who refuses to stay silent, even when it puts her in the middle of controversy. That's not easy. Speaking out in an industry like this comes with consequences, criticism, isolation, people questioning your credibility, your motives, your sanity. But still, she keeps talking. And whether you agree with her or not, that persistence says something. It says this conversation isn't going away anytime soon.
Because the truth is, people are starting to look closer now. They're paying attention to the patterns, the stories that repeat, the way certain artists rise and others disappear. And they're asking themselves a simple question: what really happens behind the scenes? Because once that question is planted, it doesn't go away. It grows. And maybe that's the real reason this story matters. Not because of one claim, not because of one interview, but because it opens a door that a lot of people were comfortable keeping closed.
Allegedly, the song Daughter on Beyonce's Cowboy Carter album.
I love that one.
Well, it's potentially a murder confession about Jay-Z's mistress, Kathy White.
What?
Yeah, buckle up. On August 28th, 2011, Beyonce announced her pregnancy at the MTV VMAs.
Iconic.
On January 7th, 2012, Blue Ivy was born into this world. In 2016, Beyonce dropped Lemonade. Now, as we all know, Lemonade was a true album about infidelity. Jay-Z was rumored to have a very long time mistress. It was well known in the industry. People knew of Kathy White because of Jay-Z, okay? Yikes. So here's where it gets a little crazy. Kathy White was known to be pregnant in 2011. Shortly after giving birth, Kathy died mysteriously in her apartment of a brain aneurysm.
I have a feeling this is related.
Okay. Now, even though we saw Beyonce's bump publicly, there's a video of Beyonce sitting down for an interview and her whole stomach just deflates in the video. And it's very weird.
This is crazy.
If you listen to Daughter, the song completely illustrates her confession. The lyrics in the song say, "Your body laid out on these filthy floors, your bloodstains on my custom coutures. Bathroom attendant let me right in. She was a big fan. I tried to stay cool, but your arrogance disturbed my solitude. Now I ripped your dress and you're all black and blue. Look what you made me do." So fans are speculating that Beyonce had Kathy White killed after Kathy White had the baby and claimed the baby as her own, and that baby is Blue Ivy.
And once that door's open, it's hard to shut it again. So now the question isn't just about Rihanna or Jay-Z or even Jaguar Wright. The question is bigger than that. How much of what we see is the full story, and how much of it is just what we're allowed to see? Because if there's one thing history has shown us, it's that the truth doesn't always come out all at once. Sometimes it comes in pieces, voices, stories, moments that don't seem connected until suddenly they are. And when that happens, everything changes. So what do you think? Is this just another wave of internet noise? Or is there something deeper that people are finally starting to notice? Because one thing is certain, this conversation isn't over. In fact, it might just be getting started. And maybe the real story here isn't just about what was said, it's about everything that still hasn't been said. Because the truth is, in an industry built on image, control, and power, the full picture rarely comes out all at once. It comes in pieces, in moments, in voices that people either choose to believe or ignore. And that's exactly where we are right now. You've heard the claims. You've seen how names like Rihanna and Jay-Z get pulled into conversations that go far beyond music. And then there's Jaguar Wright, a voice that refuses to stay quiet, no matter how uncomfortable things get. Whether you agree with her or not, one thing is clear: she's forcing people to look closer. Because once you start questioning how things really work behind the scenes, it's hard to stop. Maybe everything being said is true, maybe some of it is exaggerated, or maybe the reality sits somewhere in the middle, hidden behind layers of power, influence, and silence. But what nobody can deny is that stories like this keep coming back. Different names, different faces, but the same patterns. And that's what makes this bigger than just one situation. It makes you wonder how many artists had to navigate things we'll never fully understand, how many moments were hidden behind success, how many decisions were made when nobody was watching. Because by the time we see the spotlight, the real story has already happened. And maybe that's why people are paying attention now more than ever, because the audience is changing. People aren't just consuming content anymore. They're questioning it. They're connecting dots. They're listening to voices that used to be ignored. And whether that leads to truth or just more questions, it's still a shift. So now it comes down to you. What do you believe? Do you see this as just another viral moment, something that will fade away like so many stories before it? Or do you think this is part of something bigger, something that's slowly being exposed piece by piece? Because conversations like this don't just disappear. They evolve, they grow, and sometimes they lead to answers nobody expected. If this video made you think even for a moment, then it did its job. So go ahead, drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know where you stand on this. And if you're ready for more deep dives, more untold stories, and more conversations that people are afraid to have, make sure you hit like, smash that subscribe button, and turn on notifications so you never miss what's coming next. Because trust me, this story, it's far from over.